After years of practicing shadow work and now teaching other men how to do the same thing in order to reclaim sovereignty over their own life, I have noticed repeatedly the most common mistakes that happen during this work. And also I've noticed them in myself over the years. And by giving them to you, it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of headache, and allowing you to actually maintain momentum. And at the very end, I'm actually going to throw in a 7th mistake just as a bonus. Starting with number 1, hyper fixation on trauma. The shadow exists with not only the parts of yourself that are hard to look at, the painful memories, but it also exists the golden shadow, the untapped potential that you truly have. The shadow that is trauma-based overlaps with the golden shadow. Each one is offsetting and suppressing the other. So for example, if you have a fear of exposure, let's say, because a part of your past had any time that you were, let's say, given attention by a group, it was negative attention. Perhaps it was pointing out your flaws, pointing out what you've made a mistake in. And so now your body interprets exposure as a negative. It is now a problem. Even if you intellectually know about it, you still feel it physically and it locks you up. Which then, if you have a skill, if you have a talent that you believe you actually can make some impact with, you are unable to access it in fear that when you get exposed, you will be criticized and judged. Now, whenever people hyperfixate on just the traumatic past, what are you really doing other than just ruminating in that state, and you're just reinforcing it? You're reinforcing that pain, which then launches you into this victim frame. Now you're in the environment of, oh, I can't do it. I'm just going to try to avoid it. And then you take the golden shadow, and what you do is you just project it onto somebody else, and you begin to just admire other people who have it, or you might envy those that have it. Number 2 is pressuring the timeline. Now, I understand this one because this one was one of my common mistakes. When we are under distress and we are just begging for relief from this hold, from this emotional knot that is keeping us back, we will do, we just want it gone. And so when we do not see the results of release, then you kind of add this arbitrary sense of time. You now say, well, I want it to be, I want to get over this in 2 months. I want to be able to make this happen in 3 weeks because of this important, date that I'm having, or this presentation, or this job interview. But unfortunately, by trying to squeeze it in is not actually going to speed it up. It is actually going to slow it down, because now you have more energy being poured into dealing with the anxiety and the stress associated with the timeline, rather than pointing energy towards what actually needs to be healed. Number 3, the aha addiction. I otherwise like to call it forced revelation. Similar to number 2, because we want to be relieved of our discomfort, and perhaps we've gone quite some time without seeing some progress, we will either create a memory or force connections or reasons as to why all of a sudden, oh, I understand what's going on. I get it now. And this might be a little bit of a bummer for news, but this is almost an unavoidable mistake. It's hard to know because you can be very convincing to yourself. And so whenever you are in heavy discomfort, not seeing progress, not liking the unknown, your survival mechanism will all of a sudden come to you and say, oh, I know what it is. And the way you know it's not actually what it is some time will go by and you'll feel no progress whatsoever. You just have to accept it. Just stay in a stoic frame. A stoic frame is a great way to look at it. I'm not saying to suppress the emotion. I'm not saying to distort it, deny it, or anything like that, but you accept it as is. If you haven't watched my previous video on this, I made a video about my 4-phase system for shadow work, And if you haven't seen that, I really go into the framework as to how to actually do it, which will then complement what I'm talking about right here. Staying inside your frame, your center, no matter what news or the lack of news that you're getting, and just being okay with it, learning to be okay with it. Number 4, intellectual versus true integration. This is something I've noticed in men in particular. We can actually get to the point of shadow work where we are now recognizing and we know why we're held back. We know it's because of the relationship we had with our mother and how all this snowballed and built all the coping mechanisms and the complexes that have been developed in order for us to survive and adapt to our environment. We can know it intellectually, but that is not integration. That is just knowledge. Integration is when you have fully accepted it and it is no longer a heavy somatic experience to you. Are you still reactive when you're in an environment that can trigger that particular trauma? Or I like to use the word activate because triggers become, I don't know, it's just like an annoying word to me now. So activating, is there something that activated you and all of a sudden you are not able to find your frame, you're just sucked into that emotion? Now, number 5 expands a little bit on number 4, which is emotional grounding. Keeping this work only above the shoulders, only incorporating the mind. I talk about it in my Trinity of Masculine Excellence, where it is the combination of mind, heart, and soul. This process of shadow work requires you to respect and understand and engage with your emotions. It is very easy for us to just stay in the theoretical, in the ideal realm, and not actually really engage with the emotions of it, because you know what? Sometimes when you're feeling these emotions, it's going to change your posture. It's going to put you in a vulnerable position. You might be crying. You might be experiencing a sense of panic you are not wanting to feel because it takes you outside of what you've been trying to portray, which is always either strength or apathy against it. And so I get it, but that is where you'll find your freedom. You have to break your own mold. And so grounding the emotion is simply when you feel it, you have to sit with it. You allow it to play out. You don't ruminate in it. You don't lock yourself into a victim frame, but you do nevertheless give yourself time to cleanse that emotion. Let it go through its wave. You are actively learning to regulate yourself. And so you are trying to balance out the stoicism with the emotional release. And of course, it's very difficult to do. That's why it took me so long. That's why down below I got a wait list to my community that I'm building, the Sovereign Brotherhood community. And this is for a group of men who are looking to do all this to develop sovereignty in their own life, master their inner world, to master inner governance, this so they can actually channel that untapped potential and not feel in their own way and actually go about their life living rather than just being mechanical, step by step, every single day. If you want to know more about it, it's down below. There's a link. Read the details. If it resonates, join the waitlist. Number 6, not a cure. Here is the harsh reality of shadow work. This will not cure you of your trauma. This will not erase it, remove it, or anything of that nature. All shadow work is really doing is having you not spend excess energy and power towards avoiding, rejecting, distorting, denying parts of you. And by accepting them, you are learning how to manage. There are strategies you have to learn how to manage yourself and regulate your emotions and how to regulate your thoughts when they start to run wild. But that is really what it is. It is simply just managing effectively, having it so that you are no longer reactive to it. So you can be in a situation when typically if someone said X, Y, and Z, it would activate you and maybe you'd go into a fight, flight, or freeze response, or you would repeat a sabotaging loop pattern. Instead of that, you're able to notice it happen internally. You're able to kind of feel it physically, but you are absolutely in full control. So don't believe it to be a cure. The minute you start thinking it's a cure, you will get disappointed. And now for the grand finale, the bonus number 7. Along your journey towards sovereignty, towards the archetype of kingship that I talk about a lot in my videos, you are going to feel progress. Feel it and see it. You are also going to see and feel regress. And you are also going to feel plateau. These are unavoidable. In fact, actually, the way I like to interpret this is like a graph. So if your starting point is here, along the way, you are going to feel this. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason, but as long as you keep the path, you will be moving upward. I know how it feels when you're going through and you feel the regression, and it sucks. Again, with the people that I work with also in my mentorship, the amount of times that we'll have some progress, they'll come back and say, oh man, that memory came back with a vengeance. That is okay. It's all just training. When you go to the gym, are there days where if you're pushing a certain amount of weight that typically is light to you, but then some days it feels heavy? Does that mean you've gone backwards? No, it just means you're human. Some days you're tired. Some days you didn't get enough of your nutrients in. You didn't get a good night's sleep, whatever. There's always some factor. But don't stay so zoomed in on like the daily. You practice daily, but you have to zoom out to the macro. And the big picture is, as long as you stay consistent, you will continually release yourself, bring in more of your energy, not be able to, you can let go, but let go doesn't mean you'll forget about it. It just means you are accepting, you are forgiving yourself and those of your past. And by assuming it's going to be just a straight line with a couple plateaus will disappoint you. And that is the 7th most common mistake. Thank you for watching, everybody. And I'll see you on the next one.